Hello. Welcome, everybody, to episode 3 of I'm Not Even Supposed to Be Here Today, a conversational, cultural, savvy podcast for folks trying to make sense of a world that has gone sideways. We're here to unpack the issues that boggle our minds, all rooted in a little history, a little culture, a little humor, a little group therapy, and a lot of humility. I'm your co-host, Chris Bevelo, owner of Bearing 287, an organization fighting the good fight to make the world a better place for all, and the sponsor of this show. And I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Des, who is a social impact comm strategist by day and who spends her nights remixing history to make sense of the present. I'm glad you got the memo on wearing brown. I don't know if you're gold or you're brown. You got a brown hat and a brown shirt.
I was trying to match.
We're all brown.
We're all brown here.
Yeah. We got a little lighter episode topic to get into, but it wouldn't be a podcast with you and I if we didn't, at least every other episode, talk about the shit we are watching. And there's so much to watch on TV. Do you even say on TV anymore?
What are you watching lately?
Yeah.
What are you streaming?
I mean, I'm old school, so I'll probably always say TV, but honestly, I don't think I've watched network TV other than like a sporting event. I don't know when. Maybe I watched the Golden Globes last night.
Yeah, that's the only network
streaming
TV I watch is the award season. That's when I'm jumping in.
Okay.
Except for the Grammys. I've checked out of the music. I don't know who these people are. But the Emmys, the Oscars, the Golden Globes, this is my Super Bowl. This is my playoffs.
Nice. Well, we're going to get to that. But first, we need to talk about the shows that I can't even keep up with all of the shows. And now we have upon us, I'm going to give four new shows that I'm super excited to watch. I have no idea how I'm going to get to them. The first is The Pit, season 2. You watched season 1?
I did. Yeah, I love The Pit. And I guess in my former healthcare marketing, I felt like I needed to watch it to kind of stay up to date. But I'm glad I did. It was a really good show.
Yeah, it's very good. And someday I'll I'll either write something or I'll do a podcast on the influence The Pit had on me, because it had a huge influence on my thinking about my former industry. Speaking of industry, Industry season 4, which I didn't even know, because the end of season 3 seemed like it was the end of the series, but no. One of my favorite shows of all time and a hidden gem. You watch Industry?
I do. I randomly discovered it in a hotel room on a client trip back in, it was like December 2020 or something. And I was like, oh, this is good. It was the first season. And then I promptly fell off the face of the earth and didn't watch it ever again. Catching up on season 2 and 3. And wow. Mm-hmm. I think I heard someone describe it as basically Skins meets Succession. And that definitely feels spot on.
Yeah, it is. We watched it from the get-go, loved it from the get-go. There's so much cultural relevance to it. There's so much business relevance to it. I remember when we were trying to work with Walgreens, and I think it was season 2, and Walgreens came up, and it was all about like telehealth, and there was some big venture capitalist who's like, oh yeah, Walgreens, like that shitty thing that you see every corner. And I was like, yes, Walgreens, this is your brand. It was so dead on. How about Night Manager? Did you ever watch Night Manager with, what's his name?
Never heard of him. I never heard of that show.
Tom Hiddleston? Is that a person?
That sounds like a person, but that sounds like a action person, and I don't do the action movies.
No, he's like a Jude Law, handsome Englishman guy.
Oh.
No. That's Spider-Man. That's Tom somebody. Tom Hiddleston was Loki in the Avenger series.
No.
Okay. Anyway,
it's action.
Night Manager is like a thriller thing. Really good. Really good. Season 2, didn't know it was coming. And then lastly, I'm going to throw at you His and Hers. You heard of His and Hers?
No, I have not heard of His and Hers. What is
I
that?
had not either. It's a new series on Netflix. It stars John Barenthal and Tessa Thompson. It's a crime thriller, which I love crime thrillers. And apparently this is supposed to be, it's only 6 episodes, but it's getting some rave reviews online. That's a short list, because the list, I probably have like 15 things on my list. Anything you want to add to that list before we move on?
I've actually been catching up on a lot of the Apple TV shows. Speaking of TV, we just finished Shrinking, catching up on that. What's the one with the old boy from Mad Men? that everyone has been doing the memes around him dancing in the club.
Oh, John Hamm.
Yeah.
Friends,
Where
your
he, like,
friends and
lose-
neighbors.
Love.
Yes.
Excited for whenever that second season comes out. But yeah, I had some downtime, so I caught up on industry and prep.
Good.
That's where I'm at.
And I have to go back and watch Andor because we canceled Disney when they pulled their Kimmel bullshit. And then I'm like, okay, with everything going on right now, I got to watch Andor again. Have you seen Andor?
No,
Yeah.
you've told me to,
No.
but it's that speculative fiction I can't do.
But it's all about rebellion, Des. And it's about Star Wars, the rebellion, which is like Luke Skywalker and all that. But it's like the real shit. And it's, is it inspiring? Fires you up.
I hear you, but I'm gonna have to get inspired to actually watch it. I'm sure I'll get it once I actually like watch it, but I'm just not inspired.
Okay. One plug before we move to our big topic, and that is I have launched the 1985 Project, which is an initiative that is all about helping people see and understand and combat propaganda, misinformation, and all the bullshit that's out there. It is a take on 1984, which was the Orwellian hellscape that we seem to find ourselves in today, unfortunately. So 1985 is about moving past that, helping people move past that. And so there's going to be a podcast eventually, but right now on Substack, we have a newsletter called the 1985 Report. And I encourage people to go check it out, subscribe to it. We'll be posting stuff at least a couple times a week, features. And then we've created this really cool thing, which we'll talk about at a different podcast, where we score things for their level of propaganda and misinformation and bullshit. So we will put that in the show notes, but having a lot of fun doing that, even though the topics aren't necessarily fun, they're actually scary and infuriating. Let's add, because there's plenty of people shining sun on nonsense.
What's some
Let
air?
the sun pour in on the bullshit we're exposed to every day. All right. With that, so if you're new to the show, we're not even supposed to be here today as a takeoff of Clerks and the idea that, oh my gosh, I can't believe we got to roll out of bed and talk about this. And so today's topic is a little lighter, but I think we might veer into the deep end. Pretty sure
yeah.
we will. We will.
It's my favorite topic.
Award season? It's award season. It is. And it was so funny because we planned this episode to record today, Monday, January 12th. Neither of us realized that the Golden Globes were last night, which is perfect, actually, because it plays right into this topic. So we already went through the movies or the TV shows that you and I are kind of like hip on right now. Movies, the big ones, One Battle After Another. Have you seen that?
I did. Yeah. I saw a lot. I saw One Battle After Another, Sinners, Weapons, No Other Choice, The Secret Agent. I will say, though, my favorites were some of those sleeper hits, which was like Sorry Baby, which Julia Roberts shouted out, and then Parthenope. So, yeah, I've seen all the things, and I think I tried to get you to watch some of the stuff that I watched, but I'm glad to see you at least saw One Battle After Another.
Well, yes. And Sinners, we'll talk about both of those movies in depth here because they're kind of the focus of the show. I have not seen Begonia, so I'm interested in that. Anyway, as you can tell, award season always brings controversy. And I was thinking about this, and it just reminds me of the college football playoffs. Back in the day, forever, the top two teams would be chosen to play in the national championship. And it was full of controversy, because there was always somebody who was like, we should be in that, we should be in that. And so then they made, all right, we're going to have playoffs, and we're going to have 4 teams. And then sure enough, like team 5 is like, whoa, we should be in the playoffs. So now there's 12. And this year is like Vanderbilt, why aren't we in the playoffs? And who else? Texas, why aren't we in the playoffs? So it doesn't matter how many teams they let in to the playoffs. There's always going to be controversy. And I think it doesn't matter who gets nominated or wins what. There will always be snubs and controversy for awards. However, it feels like the controversy is bringing us backwards in time because it seems to center on race again, right? And so we're going to break this down in depth, but just to kind of set the stage. First of all, there's a lot of talk about Sinners getting snubbed. Black director, primarily black cast, a black story, getting snubbed left and right. And I'll just say, like, it got snubbed again last night at the Golden Globes. This all started when Rolling Stone, this is incredible to me, Rolling Stone magazine issued its list of the top 20 movies of 2025 and did not include Sinners, where a lot of people believe Sinners is the best movie. Like, that's just hard to understand that.
That's insane to me. I mean, Sinners it was such a cultural moment. It created so much conversation around filmmaking, looking into all of the research that they put into it. People were doing like whole like dissertations on TikTok about like, okay, did you notice where this and like all of this stuff? It was insane. Karina and I, my partner, we and I had gone to see it opening weekend, not really thinking about it, just like, oh, I heard this might be good. And as soon as I left the theater, I called my brother and I was like, you have to go see this movie. This was incredible. Because I'm not really like a horror movie fan, but I was like, oh, there's just so much. We ended up watching like every person's dissection of the film. It created such a cultural moment. So for it to be completely snubbed is on that list, the Rolling Stone, that's asinine to me.
It's asinine. And I think did they shoot it with an iPhone or did they shoot it? They did something in how they shot it that also was like groundbreaking.
Oh, he shot it on film. And like you had all of these different opportunities. Like I saw it at least twice, but you had all these opportunities to either see it in 35 millimeter, I think maybe 70 millimeter, IMAX, like all of these different things. But he shot it on gorgeous, gorgeous film.
And there was a bunch of, what are they called? Where there's uninterrupted shot. There's a name for that. A long shot. Like Goodfellas has the most famous one where they walk into the Coca Cabana through the kitchen. I think it had a number of those. I could be wrong there. But anyway, so you got that. And we're going to dive deeper into it. And then you have what we mentioned before, One Battle After Another, which is interesting because it actually features very strong black characters in it. However, those characters are portrayed in a stereotype of over-sexualized black women, and that is causing controversy. So, Des, here we are, and we have to ask, like, are the Oscars still so white? Like, is that the deal? So we're going to dig into this. Like we said, we're going to just kind of, it's a lighter topic, but then here we go, right into the deep end.
Yeah, I mean, we're still waiting, of course, for the Oscar nominations to come out. But like right now, it definitely feels like Golden Globes so white.
Was it People's Choice?
Yeah, that was the Best Actor award between Michael B. Jordan and Timothée Chalamet, and how Timothée Chalamet won for this, and people are feeling like, are you insane? Like Michael B. Jordan played two characters, played twin brothers, but okay, this Marty Supreme is better. Okay, got it. Granted, I haven't seen Marty Supreme. I don't know. I feel like I'm like boycotting it just because of all the conversation. But I'm sure I'll watch it because I try to watch everything that's Oscar nominated.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to try to set some stuff up, but I'm going to turn the microphone over to my co-host Des to really dig into these topics because so many reasons. Like, we don't want this to be podcast so white with old bald white guy riffing on black issues. I have opinions, but they're not qualified like yours are. So I think you have so much more experience with this in terms of studying it with your remixing of history. So I can't wait to hear some of your takes. But let's just go back. Like, what is Oscar So White? So this was really interesting. I had forgotten how this started. And it was kind of incidental, right? It wasn't a intentional movement. It was actually a woman named April Rain, who was a campaign finance lawyer, and she had noticed that, like, okay, so every single acting category, this was in 2015, 20 of them, all white people, like no color whatsoever. And so she tweeted, this tweet is amazing, #OscarsSoWhite, they asked to touch my hair, which is hilarious. But she just threw #OscarsSoWhite. It wasn't like, I'm going to start a movement, but it went viral. And it became kind of this calling out. And it happened again the next year. So that was really where the attention came. Like, oh, really? Again? All 20 are white people? So just some statistics. And then I'm going to see what your viewpoint is on just kind of the background of racism in Hollywood does. But USC Annenberg Inclusion Initiative. So USC obviously has a very well-known film school. They cited that since 1929, there were 13,445 Oscar nominees through, I think this study came out in 2024, so just a couple years ago. So through that date, only 6% of those nominated were people of color, 17% were women, and 2% were women of color. So of all of the nominations up to that point, as of 2020 or in 2024, 20% of the nominees were people of color. So that's a big improvement. But given that people of color represent 42% of the population, not really still like half representation if you want to look at it that way, right? So there's a ton we could get into, but what's your perspective on race and Hollywood and movies?
Yeah, I mean, historically, most characters of color in general have been seen as these side characters, right? You know, Hattie McDaniel was the first black person, black woman to win, and she was playing a maid essentially in Gone with the Wind, right? And then Sidney Poitier won his, but like I think that's the biggest issue is that we're always kind of seen as a side character. So then when you get into movies that have a more predominantly black cast, then that's seen as like that's a black movie over there, you know, for that community. That's not that's not that's not Gen Pop. That's for them. Kind of the same thing that we saw or see within music. Not as much anymore, but back in the day, like it was labeled like, oh, that's race music if it's a black act, right? Or an artist. And that's been across the board. Look at television. It's still divided even more so today. I will say, though, that the 90s had a bit of a renaissance with there were a ton of majority black cast television shows like sitcoms, like, of course, The Cosby Show, Fresh Prince, Family Matters. Then you start to get into Martin and all of these different shows that never got their due. And let's not forget where Friends was originated was the Living Single show. But I mean, I think that's across the board. What we've always experienced is that, you know, anything that has to do with a community of color, that's, you know, for them only. I think that's the biggest issue is that it can be summed up as like that is for, you know, this other like niche audience. This isn't a part of the actual art form of cinema.
Yeah, so lack of representation and then very kind of cast off representation, I guess I would say. Like, oh no, we're just going to put that over there. That's for that audience only, and we don't need to think about it for the general audiences. But let's bring it back to today, right? Why are we talking about this now? So things have gotten a little better, and I would say like if we're talking about people of color, particularly like Asians have done very well in awards, especially movie awards, right? You had Parasite win Best Movie. You've had Asian directors. Crazy Rich Asians won some awards, right? So better, didn't it? It won. Some of the actors won.
Everything Everywhere All at Once was a huge
Everything
hit.
Everywhere All at Once, right? But if we're focused on black movies, black characters in black movies, directors, all of that, not so great. So here's a quick little stat list for you. Last black leading actor award was Will Smith for King Richard in 2022. These are Oscars, by the way, only Oscars, which Moonlight won the Oscar. In the infamous, oops, they read the wrong name. Last black leading actress, Halle Berry for Monsters Ball, 2002. Brutal. Best supporting actress, I'm going to pronounce the name wrong. Daniel
Kaluuya.
Thank you. Judas and the Black Messiah in 2021. Best Adapted Screenplay, Spike Lee, Black Klansman, 2019. Best Supporting Actress, Zoe Saldana from Emilia Perez, 2025. That was just last year. Last Black Director, Des, can you name the last Black director to win Best Director?
I cannot.
No, because there has never been. Never been. So nice. So it's got some work to do, right? Again, I'm going to set this up, and then I'm going to let you roll. Well, I'll set up the Sinners snub because I'm with you. Like Sinners was freaking amazing, and I do have this thing. I am subject to the overhype letdown. So when something's super hyped, and then I take it in, and a lot of times I'm let down. That was not the case with Sinners. Definitely the case with One Battle After Another, which we're going to talk about in a second for me. But I've watched Sinners twice. I will 100% watch it again as part of this season. I just thought it was phenomenal, right? So where did this idea of that it was getting snubbed? So we talked about Rolling Stone in 2020 or 2025 December list of top 20 movies, not even on it. Michael B. Jordan, you mentioned, lost to Best Actor to Timothée Chalamet. I like Timothée Chalamet. He was amazing in A Complete Unknown. Part of me wonders whether it's just like, you know how it works. People get the makeup Oscar. That happened to, what's his name, for Gladiator when he was snubbed for Beautiful Mind, or vice versa. I can't remember. Russell Crowe. It happens all the time. So maybe that's it. I don't know. But there was a lot of controversy, particularly in the Black community, about that. Last night, as we mentioned, shut out of the major awards, which is funny at the Golden Globes, because the story I pulled said that, like, well, it won 2 awards, but they don't really count. The first one was like some kind of, they don't even broadcast it kind of award, like Best Art Direction or something. It wasn't terrible, but it's not a major award. And then the other one is the Golden Globes a couple of years ago introduced the Best Commercial Success, which is basically like, oh, Wicked won it, and the big movies that, we want to just give them a nod to because they made a lot of money. It's not necessarily like the respected award. And so it won that. But no acting awards, no Best Movie Award, no Best Director, no Best Screenplay, which the screenplay, I guess, there's original and there's adapted in the Oscars. But in the Golden Globes, it's only one. So there might be like, well, maybe it'll win for, what would it probably win for? Original?
Ryan Coogler wrote, researched, did all the things for this one.
Yeah. So with that, all eyes are on the Oscars for, if it's not nominated, I think people will be in the streets. But it's not just nominated. Is it going to win any major awards, right? And so that's Sinners.
Let's unpack that before we get into the One Battle After Another.
Okay, let's do it.
Whenever I come across the conversation around, is it race? Is it this? Is it all going back to race? And I always have to remember, green is the only color that matters in this world, right? And so when I'm looking at the last movies that have been a big smash hits at the award season, they were A24, which I love. Like, I'm an A24 stan.
Yeah.
If their movies are out, I go see it because it's going to be good in some way. It might be too weird, but it was like good, weird. Time
out. Is that, it's so unique that a production company, I don't know what category they are, but I'm with you. I actually own A24, like, where? I think the only other company that could claim that is Disney, where if they put out something, people are going to it because of the company behind it, not the director or the actors, the story, or anything. Right? Am I wrong there? Maybe Miramax a little back in the day.
Well, if you're talking purely just kind of like swag, then yeah, Disney, A24. But I think as far as clout, yeah, Miramax used to be like that girl. But of course that fell because Weinstein is a monster. Yeah. And so, yeah, A24 became that, like, oh, it's a stamp of approval. If this is a film created by that studio, then I want to go see it. It's going to be good. And also what they're good at is spending their money when it comes to the for-year consideration time of the year. And when you look at, like, I was thrilled when Parasite won. This was, 2019, or 2020, right before the pandemic. I was thrilled. When I went to that film, I was like, this is incredible. But then a couple years down the road, you see Everything Everywhere All at Once. Again, another movie that I was so excited about and had a ball watching, and all of the memes and everything that came out after that. But it became very apparent during that particular Oscar season that, oh, they put a lot of money. They won every category just about that they were in. And so a lot of this has to do with funding, right? And oftentimes, maybe the films that are focused from a Black director's perspective, their studio, their production, they don't always get that access. And we're looking at focusing on merit of the work when we're playing a game of who's got the most money and connections behind it when it comes to Hollywood. So that's what I think more about when it comes to this conversation is, the money behind it, the machine behind it. And Sinners may not have the machine that the other films have, so they may not get it. But I don't think it is a direct correlation to the cinematic feat, the incredible storytelling that was done, the art that was created, that was art to me. I think it has more to do with follow the money, follow that particular color of green.
I don't think this is a Saving Private Ryan moment, a movie that was utterly robbed of Best Movie by a decent movie, Shakespeare in Love. But like, come on, you're talking about an iconic movie. I don't know that that's the case here. Maybe it is with Sinners, but it's definitely debate, right? I think it's where you have to raise your eyebrow is in the like, oh, here's our top 20 movies, and it's not on there, right? Like, that's not even about an Oscar campaign. That's just like, what the hell are you doing? And so there's other things we'll talk about later, too, that lead to Oscar wins and Oscar losses that have nothing to do with race, that have nothing to do with the quality of a movie, frankly. But it's good to keep all that in mind, right? Like, this is about money. Sinners made a little bit more money.
A lot more money.
I mean, that's the other side of that argument. Like, okay, but Oscars don't like it when you make a lot of money. Also, that's a sign of popular approval, which means it must not be good because us people out here in the streets, we can't possibly understand cinema. So let's go with Marty Supreme that like 14 people saw.
So yeah, there's that. But let's also look at, again, going back to the money, who owns the Rolling Stone? Penske Media.
Penske, like the oil racing car company?
That might be where they get the money. Penske Media, they own Rolling Stones. They own the Golden Globes. They own Variety.
They own the Gold Globes?
They own the Golden Globes. It's always interesting to see the different perspectives of what's going on, but that, of course, is framed and shaped by our algorithms. But that's the conversation that I'm seeing on my internet, is that let's go back to who owns all of these things? What is the narrative that they're pushing? And that it's all completely connected. This has been more of a recent development that this particular media empire owns all of these entities. In fact, they didn't necessarily buy the Golden Globes. They bought Dick Clark Productions, which had bought the Golden Globes some years back, only a few years back. So that's a part of that. What is the narrative? What is the agenda that this particular group is pushing? And to that point, that there might be some connectivity to race there, which is why there is all of this big push for Marty Supreme after flop of a release over the Christmas holiday weekend compared to Sinners back in the spring. And so it was also very interesting to see how Sinners was talking about as far as the headlines around it, where it was essentially saying like, oh, well, it was will it have any kind of, like, everything that there was tied to had sort of an asterisk around its credibility as a film. Whereas Marty Supreme, which no one has seen, gets all of his accolades immediately. And it goes back to the narrative and the money. Who owns the story here? And it's Penske.
Well, and in this day and age, like, we are living in new times where there's explicit outward appeal to a political leader in law firms, media companies, you name it. Like, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that to please our president. Honestly, I'm just going to put it right out there. Like, even right now, the huge media acquisition situation with Paramount and Netflix, they don't want Netflix to own this thing because Netflix turns out not to be a supporter of Trump. And so very likely that I think it's Paramount that's trying to do a competitive bid led by Larry Ellison's son. Larry Ellison has been very so it goes like, you do have to question what is happening these days, because it's out there in broad daylight that this is happening, that people are like, oh, we're going to say and do these things, to either get something from the administration or to avoid negative impact from the administration. That's the truth of the world we live in. Like, that's not me. That's not an opinion. That is literally happening. What you're talking about, Des, 98% of the people, including me, have no concept that there's one organization behind all of these different public-facing things that we all know. I don't know anything about Penske, so I have no idea whether they're a MAGA donor, Republican, Trump support. Who knows? They also may have been like, well, look, we don't want any, we don't want to be accused of being woke, so we're going to avoid all that stuff and focus on Timothy Chalamet, who is pretty damn woke. So, like, I feel like maybe they could have picked on they could have promoted the Reagan movie. I don't know.
Well, I don't know how woke Timothy is, but this was all brought to my attention by Blakely Thornton, who is a pop culture person that I follow. And he had a post about Hollywood's right-wing news media empire, where he has, like, on the background, it has essentially all of the different brands that Penske Media owns. And this is owned by Jay Penske, but his father is definitely a huge supporter of Trump. I then learned more about that from a different person that's talking about this, which is, his name is Jared Jenkins. I was like, oh my God, like connecting the dots here. They're doing like CIA level of digging into like follow the money. But again, like I said, this is all a little bit newer where all of these brands are sitting under this one gigantic media empire, but you have to, it makes you think about there is something behind this, and that what we're seeing and what we're experiencing out in the world is being paralleled right here in Hollywood. And we're going to watch it. We have watched it play out on the Golden Globes just the other night. So the Oscars will be very telling as to how they're going to respond to this. I'm sure the votes have already been in, but it'll be very interesting to see how that actually shakes up, knowing that who owns Golden Globes versus who's leading the Oscars.
Yes. All right. So that was a nice wormhole of stuff. I had no idea. Thank God that you're doing your homework. We've got one other topic to talk about. We're pressing time, so I want to get to it. One battle after another. I already kind of mentioned it. This is where I shut up, because I am not the person to be talking about the over-sexualization of black women and black fetish and all that stuff, because I have no knowledge of it other than it's a thing.
Well, that's something you noticed, right?
I noticed the characters were sexual. 100%. Did I notice that they were over-sexualized? Did I know that that's like a classic Jezebel trope? No. Well, look at me. I don't know shit, right? Me and most of the populace, I would guess, have no idea that that's a thing that's going on. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, watching the film, I did definitely notice. I'm trying to remember if I had gotten a heads up just from some of the folks that I follow, if it had been mentioned before seeing One Battle After Another. But the Teyana Taylor character is essentially a central focus of the first half of the movie. And like, we're riding for her because she's out here guns a-blazing, pregnant with her daughter, like with the big gun out here, activists taking matters into their own hands, and it's like glorious. But then the second half of the movie, she's all but forgotten. That part about what she has been on screen, it was connected to the Sean Penn character, in that she was the object of affection for both the Leonardo DiCaprio character, who she had had a child with, but then also the guy on the enemy line, Sean Penn. And that there's definitely the over-sexualization. And you had ran across an article where Teyana Taylor, who, shout out to her, she got her first Golden Globes award for this role the other night, but that she talks a bit about her experience with that.
I think what's interesting is she actually defends the character. She did an interview with Hollywood Reporter in November, and she said, "Is that not what black women go through? We are fetishized, especially by creepy mother bleepers," which Sean Penn plays a completely creepy mother bleeper. "We are unfortunately the least protected people," and noted that portraying what black women go through is a hard reality to accept, and this movie should spark debate. I always knew it would, because sometimes you just got to shake the table. So I think that's an interesting take from the actress who played the character. So I don't know. It's you can see both sides of it, but also my takeaway from the movie was the character actually, while she's the object of affection from a creepy mother bleeper, she returns that affection. So it seems to further their stereotypical trope. So it's hard for me to follow that all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, like her quote about, is that not what black women go through? It's what black women go through does make everyone uncomfortable, because you have to sit with the reality of that. And the reality is that we have been over-sexualized since childhood. That's what she's referring to, is that, as a young black girl, you are automatically connected to sexuality long before your other peers, maybe other girls of other races, but like automatically you're seen as this, oh, she's hypersexual, and she's like, no, she's 12, right? And so the rate of sexual assault to young Black girls is attributed to like, oh, they seem older than what they actually are. And it's like, how? Because of what, somebody came up with all of these years ago and then kind of put that on us. Maybe this, of course, might have happened during slavery, but our entire existence has been around our sexuality, and it started at such a young and inappropriate age. So then, yeah, there is that conversation around the fetishization of Black women, fetishization of women of color in general, especially amongst the white gays, G-A-Z-E with a Z. And your question around like, well, she did have relations with him, right? And yeah, so what's wrong with that? I think there's a nod to what she says about our existence. Like we're experiencing this on different fronts, even, how that manifests into our adulthood, right? And at times you can kind of make that work for your advantage. You either make that work and to your situation, which apparently she's doing perhaps in this movie, or you deflect. But what's really interesting is that there has been more of a conversation in the dating realm here lately about dating outside of one's race and encouraging more Black women to date outside of their race, because there are obviously other men, white men, East Asian men, what have you, Latino men who are actually interested in, and I'm speaking primarily from a hetero perspective, which I know nothing about, but that's the conversation is that, hey, you are deserving of love and you can date outside the race. But that has always been kind of this taboo thing or this taboo conversation. But when we're seeing it play out here on the screen, it does bring out it brings up a lot of questions, which to her point is the point. There is no, well, is that going to continue the stereotype? And it's like, well, stereotypes exist for a reason, but right now they're putting it up to our faces to actually look at. And like, what does that mean? And what does that reflect in our own desires? To me, it feels very similar to more of the, like, the conversations around like, oh, whenever there's a bunch of gay Republicans, that Grindr goes down because everyone is on Grindr, because everyone is closetly gay, like these men are closetly gay. It's kind of this similar thing where like coming to reality with like what is our actual desires, our attractions, our sexuality, and this is maybe just another conversation around that.
See, you thought we were just going to talk about the movies and TV shows we like to watch, and that we're in the deep end now. So we're going to wrap, but let's talk about some things that we should do, right? Like I think a couple important things for me to kick off, and then I'll let you weigh in too. One, this isn't about artistic preference, right? This topic that we're talking about, racism in Hollywood and the sexualization of women and Black women specifically, that goes beyond whether I like Marty Supreme or I like Sinners, right? Because that's always going to be there, and that's the fun of award season, is to have those debates, right? And just because a white actor beats a Black actor doesn't mean it's racism necessarily. But to your point about Penske and all that stuff, you really got to make sure that you understand the whole context of whatever it is you're looking at. There's a lot of evidence that says, hey, the best chance to win an Oscar is when you release the movie in October, November, December. Sinners came out earlier in the year, right? So it's already up against the 8 ball. So anyway, you got to keep all that into context. I think like it's clear Hollywood still has to work on racial representation, both from what you shared about kind of the underbelly of the media conglomerates that run a lot of the variety and all that stuff, but also just from the movies and the nominations and all that. And I would say, like, if you really want to get into this, we've got resources, some really cool resources from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, from Dartmouth. UCLA puts out a Hollywood diversity report every year. And again, UCLA has a pretty respected film school. So those are resources if you want to learn more or dig more into it. But Des, I think like I'm going to let you wrap us on kind of using your own judgments, understanding framing and narrative and all of that is a great way to kind of close out our convo here.
Yeah, I mean, all of this tells me more about the pay attention to the framing, right? So when we're looking at headlines about films or music or anything really, think to yourself, would they write this about a white-led film with these numbers? The way that they talked about skeptically or with skepticism about the success of Sinners, they didn't have that same energy when it came to Marty Supreme, which did not have a fraction of the numbers at the box office. Granted, the movie's only been out for maybe like 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so, but still pay attention to that. As far as the media conglomerate you mentioned, look at who owns what, right? Who is pushing the same narrative? And a lot of times they are connected and that they have an agenda behind that. So learning that Penske Media owns all of these outlets taught me a lot about what I can look at and what I can trust. But for us as, the moviegoers, obviously we have zero control over what's going on in Hollywood. However, we can speak with our dollars. And we are going to go and obviously the cinematic feat, the box office success of Sinners told folks, and what studios actually care about the most is what movies are making the most money. Well, we showed up and we showed out. We went multiple times to see Sinners. So keep that same energy with these films that you do love and appreciate. If there's something that's being overly touted, pay attention to that. Why is that? What is the agenda behind that? So it's all about, again, just paying attention, because everything I've learned, this has been the biggest thing about being in marketing for these last several years, is that everything is marketing. Everything is pushing some sort of agenda. So pay attention to what and who is speaking the loudest when you've watched it or you feel like, this feels a bit off.
So you're being generous when you say everything's marketing. I might say what you say is marketing is also propaganda, right? If you've got a media conglomerate. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's a synonym, right? Honestly. So, but marketing in the service of money, propaganda in the service of money, always. Always, always, always. It's always there. It's who we are as a country, for better and most of the time for worse. Worse. Unless you're a billionaire, then you're doing great. All right, we're gonna wrap this episode. Des, thank you. This was a good one. This is a fun one. Was this lighter? I'm not sure this was lighter. Oof. No, it was. We tried to start with a light topic, but we knew it might go, to a deeper place, and it definitely did that. But thank you for bringing all your wisdom. Thank you all for joining us for episode 3. We hope this is helping you cope in some way with the world around us, with if you're a huge Sinners fan and trying to figure out what's going on, or you're put off by one battle after another. Hopefully this helped you see some things differently. Please like and subscribe to podcasts on iTunes and Spotify. It helps ensure that other people get to hear us. Visit bearing287.com, which is now launched officially. Our organization is launched. And again, follow me on Substack, because the idea of a Hollywood propaganda machine that's been running for decades, that elevates white voices and suppresses voices of color, isn't a surprise, but I didn't know those things were connected, right? It's 100% the kind of stuff we're going to talk about with the 1985 project. So you can follow, and maybe I'll do a little more digging on that and write a story on that, as that would be cool to connect the two. So I'm Chris Bevlow on behalf of I'm Not Even Supposed to Be Here and Bearing 287. Thank you for listening. See you next time.